Hello, everybody, and today is Thursday, July 8th, 2021, the day of code freeze for 122. We have a short agenda for SIG Instrumentation today. I believe the first item is Han talking about a new triage time.
Oh yeah, that's right. So some people had some issues with the triage time, and I thought it would make sense to move it to the alternating Thursdays, so that basically all of our meetings fall on the same day every week.
Han, your audio is a bit echoey.
Okay.
I can try to repeat what you just said. You might want to try a headset. So I think Han just attempted to say that there is a conflict right now with the current triage session, which is 9 a.m. Pacific time on Wednesdays. I believe it conflicts with an open telemetry meeting or something like that, something upstream. That is not a cube meeting. And so we are proposing to move it to the same slot as this meeting. So this is 9:30 Pacific time on Thursdays. And so right now we currently are alternating meeting Wednesdays and Thursdays, and instead we'll just be in the same slot every week. It'll just be alternating triage in our normal meeting. And we wanted to get folks' feedback. I think Han updated the invite already, but wanted to make sure that that still works for everyone.
I did indeed.
I see some thumbs ups.
Yeah, happy with that.
Thank you.
Okay, so then I don't think we have anything else on that one. If you do have any concerns and you don't want to like mention it on the recorded meeting, feel free to reach out to any of us via PM. Let's see. Reviewers updates. This was also, I think, Han item. I think we're sharing this one, but I can kick it off. So first off, congrats to Lily for becoming an approver in Kubernetes. And I think we want to like add more reviewers. Was that the gist of this item, Han? You said you don't think you can speak. You want to try?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a little bit bad, but like it's understandable.
This always happens whenever I'm on the website.
Oh, I see what's happening. I think like if you put a headset on, I think if you have audio on speaker, it's getting picked up by your mic. So it's echoing.
I actually have a microphone.
I can't help you with your fancy mic.
It's a directional mic, and I'm wearing audio headset, so I don't know if there's an echo.
I see.
It's the website, I think. So I'm not going to be able to talk about that huge sorry.
Have I accurately summarized what you wanted to raise for this one? We need reviewers. We want more people to become reviewers. What else do you want me to cover?
Yes. So, who here is a reviewer that would like to be a reviewer? Because we should just make them reviewers. If they're eligible to be reviewers.
Yeah, so let's look at the contributor ladder.
Are you a reviewer?
Sorry, I must have frozen.
Are you asking me?
Yeah. Are you a reviewer?
I don't think so.
I don't
let
think
me pull up. I'm going to share my screen. Let's take a look at the list, because I think a lot of people here are not currently on the review list, and then I think we also have some people on the list who we have sort of kept on, but maybe aren't active reviewers, and we shouldn't. So, can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Great. So here is the owner's aliases. Let me find instrumentation. So here's our current list of reviewers, which is mostly like the current list of approvers plus a few other people. So I think we have Coffee Pack, Andy, who is not active, Sergish, and really like not a lot of other folks who are getting pinged for SIG instrumentation reviews. So we would like to add people. Let me see if I can find the reviewer. There's the contributor ladder thing. Here we go, community membership. That will take me to approver, but so for those of you who are not currently familiar, Kubernetes has a community membership ladder. And so there's this sort of process going from like member to reviewer to approver to sub project owner. These like reviewer to sub project owner steps are mostly reflected in what are called owners files. So this is an example of an owners aliases file. Let me go find one of our owners files in Kubernetes, probably from component base or something like that. So we have these various files that say owners in them. Here, maybe I'll look in test. Instrumentation. So you can see that this owners file here, and it says, you know, who can approve changes in this repo and hence merge them, who can review them, and like, you know, a label gets auto applied so we know that it applies to us. And so this list is pulled from this list over here in the owner's aliases file at the root of the repo. And right now, we don't have a lot of people in that list outside of the current approvers list. And some of them are also not super active. So we want to add more people to that list. So what does it take to get there? So in order to become a reviewer, you must first be a member. So if you're not already a Kubernetes org member, you need to go through, meet all the requirements, and become one. So if you are missing sponsors and whatnot, you can reach out to us, and we will make sure that you know, you get your +1s for your sponsorship. And then after 3 months, you will be able to apply to become a reviewer. So the guidelines are basically that you've been a primary reviewer on 5 PRs and that you've reviewed or merged at least 20 substantial PRs to the code base. We don't have a lot of traffic in SIG instrumentation stuff. So like I don't think we get 20 PRs a release. So that is not a really reasonable like guideline for us. So I think other approvers, feel free to jump in if you disagree. But typically, like, you know, if we see like 5 high quality reviews, we're not going to like wait for you to get 20 or something like that. We're happy to add you to become a reviewer right at that point, because we don't have nearly the PR traffic that like I think these guidelines were written in mind for. And then if you've been doing a great job as a reviewer, then eventually you can become an approver after 3 months. So I just wanted to make sure, let me copy a link to this file into our notes so people can take a look at it if they haven't looked at this file before. Are there any questions on this? I think that basically anybody who wants to be active in Kubernetes and wants their name on an owner's file, like, here is a great opportunity. We would like to add people. And so if you are doing the work, we will add you as a reviewer, as I think our TLDR. So these are, you know, project-wide standards. So if you have any questions, now is the time to ask.
I have one question in that regard, Selena. Do we need to, like, if we want to be a reviewer, do we need to create the PR ourselves, or should we ask first an approver, or I don't know, in a SIG meeting to do that?
No, you don't need to create the PRs yourself. In fact, this is all about just reviewing. So like, you can't review your own PR. You have to review other people's PRs. So you can become a reviewer without having contributed to this code base. You simply need to make sure that you are doing reviews, and then we will check to make sure that the reviews are high quality. So, you know, if you're just like throwing LGTM on everything without making any comments, or like, you know, sort of deeply looking at that code, then maybe like that's not enough to become a reviewer. You need to actually go through and review that code. And you may ask, well, how do I do a good review? We have a guide. And so this is linked in the requirements for reviewers. There is this little code reviews doc, which I will also paste into our meeting minutes. And these talk about like, things that you should be looking for in reviews and what the expectations of reviewers are, and like, sort of SLAs and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and kind of like my other question would be, then once we have the reviews and we kind of have met all the requirements to become a reviewer, like do we need to create a PR to join the, like to change our
Yeah, so
to be RFX ourselves?
typically the person who wants to become the reviewer is the one that will create the PR. If like we as SIG leads notice that someone's been doing a lot of work but hasn't brought themselves forward, like we are also allowed to nominate somebody, assuming that they are okay with that. And so basically you just have to like create a PR with like this checklist and, like check off each box. You must be sponsored by a sub-project approver. So in this case, that's, I think, basically anyone who is already an approver in Kubernetes. Anybody on this list can sponsor you. And then everybody on this list has to sign off. That's normally how we add a new both a reviewer and later if you want to become an approver. Similar thing for approver, just the bar is a little bit higher.
Okay, makes sense. Thanks.
Other questions?
If you're interested in this, then it's a good idea to learn about Scrubs because, well, you don't have a lot of PRs. You get a decent number about Scrub, and you can self-assign.
So Han's audio is kind of breaking up, so I'll repeat it for the recording. If you want to become a reviewer, it is very highly recommended that you come to our bi-weekly triage meetings, because we don't have a lot of traffic in terms of like PRs that we need to review. There's not necessarily a lot of stuff for you to like sort of jump onto and add reviews to. So make sure that you're attending those meetings, and we will help find you things to review so that you can be the primary reviewer on these things and like work towards that goal. Any other questions? That sort of answered the question that I was going to ask, which is how do I find things to review? And I think the answer is you could look at PRs that have the SIG Instrumentation label on them in Kubernetes. But if you're not really sure where to start jumping in on that, not feeling super confident, come to our triage meetings and we will help find you things to work on. Just show up and be like, hey, I want to review things. And we are very happy to share work. I think that's all we have for that. In our Slack channel, we got a ping from the release team about the status of structured logging. So I told them to go talk to working group structured logging instead of SIG Instrumentation. But Merrick, I don't know if you want to give us an update.
Yeah, so the work that we have planned, I think that one of the major points to graduate the structural logging to beta was providing similar level of features and as Klog. So at this moment, we ended up that we need a separate cap. So this is a bigger enhancement that we will need to propose, write a cap for. So for 122, we will not graduate the cap to beta, but for 123, we plan to either to have the work for the prepare the cap and start working on the other cap, or decide to cut the scope to just get us there. Yeah, so I think currently we are finishing the collecting the feedback from the kubelet migration. So hope to get this on track for 123.
Sounds good to me.
Is there any? So I think you mentioned before. Is there any concern that you should remove the cap or to separate structure logging or the working group directory?
Oh yeah, I
so
think we
that
can
it's-
move it to the working group. I'm happy to like approve that if we want to like move it to its own directory or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I will send the PR to remove the overhead on communication.
Just out of curiosity, did you already, like, it sounded like you already thought about what cutting scope would look like? Did you, or was that just?
So that was discussed, I think, on 121, if we should launch graduate structure logging to beta with kubelet migrated. The problem back then was that the original cap proposes two separate things. One is the migration itself, and second, the JSON as an alternative format to really consume the logs. And the problem is that we are more further with migration because lots of people are contributing, and it's easier to do small changes than basically what we are proposing now is redesign logging feature, or like simplify logging features to make them more straightforward for full Kubernetes repo. So that I would be unhappy that we basically say, oh, adopt JSON, but this and this doesn't work, or like you cannot write to files. So I wanted to, for sure, for 120, didn't want to skip it back then. Now I hope that we will do it, but I don't think we should stay in limbo too long. If that's only my thought, that I don't want to block it further, because I think I would also want to. I'm planning to talk with Shubeksha if the second lead to what we are trying to achieve, to discuss what we are trying to achieve, and like what really beta means, and if the main definition of beta, like for JSON, should be maybe separate than migration for migration of logs.
Makes sense. Thank you. So if I understood correctly, that like cutting scope would mean potential non-feature parity with Klog.
Yeah. Like, so here a feature parity is a plan to at least having a long-term plan. What would this feature parity looks like? So
Okay.
Now the proposed plan is, let's drop Klog features, and this requires a separate cap. So basically we spawn a cap from cap. So that's the problem.
That seems to be a theme for us, but I think that's not all too surprising given the like cross SIG nature of most of the work that we do. So, but
Yeah.
at the very least, I'm happy that we found this out, and I'd be quite happy with dropping some Klog features.
I'm interested. If you have any ideas about alternatives, because now we are like the cap is mostly about giving people alternatives. So if you think you have an ideas about how people can do it better without those Klog features that we are removing, then it would be great. Currently we are depending on some tool that was created randomly without intention. So it would be great if we have some better long-term solution.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Han, you got something? Do you want to say it in chat, maybe? About working groups. I don't know about like so. Working groups aren't supposed to own code. I don't know if that means that they're not allowed to own caps. Because like, I mean, if the idea is that, you know,
they're temporary.
yeah, they're temporary, but like caps are also temporary, right? Like they start and then they end. So I mean, I think that would probably be a question for the enhancements team. I think that we haven't had a like it's interesting the way that working groups have worked out in the past. We haven't actually had one with the cap that like, you know, sort of the working group got disbanded when the cap merged kind of thing. I think we've been having some difficulties with that sort of thing as a project, with like the scope being limited and working groups actually wrapping up when they finish a thing. So yeah, I think this is something that we could just ask them.
Yeah, I'm just saying that this is not something that we just sign off on. Mostly because
it has to be signed off on by the enhancements team.
Yeah, there's basically no precedent for this. That's what I'm saying.
Do we have any other business? I have a thing, which is a congratulations to David Ashpole on tracing landing this release. That's so exciting.
Thanks. We'll try and get, there's one PR that I really would like to get in. So I suppose I'll take this opportunity to post it here. But yeah, we have the primary pieces in, the big initial PR, obviously, and then a couple of follow-ups have made it in. The last one that I would really like to get in is the piece that connects it to etcd, so that we can join this work with the stuff Lily already did. Actually, if you look at that, to get everyone to click on the link I sent, there's a picture of a trace, including all three, which is kind of exciting.
Nice.
It is in Stackdriver, so sorry for the plug, but it was just the easiest for me. Yeah.
I see how
you'll be forgiven this one time.
Okay.
Anything else from anyone? Questions, comments, deep dark secrets? Maybe don't put the deep dark secrets on the recording.
Elana, did you see my comment on the C-Advisor metrics rework cap that was merged?
I didn't see a comment on that. There's a couple of PRs that are in flight right now. This is the CRI stats.
Yes, so I missed to like comment in time. I commented on the PR after it was merged. It was one of the caps, I think. Like one thing that was unclear to me was what this means for like C groups V2, because a bunch of metrics stuff changes from V1 to V2. And I remember this was being discussed in the like general C groups V2.
That is a very good question. So actually, I think hopefully this is making that a lot simpler and easier and nicer, because right now we kind of have this indirection of like kubelet talks to C-Advisor to get the metrics, which talks to the container runtime, and we are moving instead to kubelet directly like does an RPC to the container runtime being like, yo, give me metrics. And so it basically completely delegates it to the CRI in a bunch of cases rather than having to go through the C-Advisor middleman, which also means that we don't have to worry about like C-Advisor like worrying about translating between C groups V1 and C groups V2, because the container runtime knows if it's running C groups V1 or V2, and then it's the problem of the container runtime.
Right, it's more of a compatibility problem, because almost literally everyone I know relies on these metrics, and like C groups V2 doesn't track, I don't know what it was anymore, whether it was network stats or CPU stats. I'm not sure anymore what it was, but the recommendation was to use like eBPF to collect this type of data in the future. And I feel like we should at least let the container runtimes know well in advance that this is coming if we're doing this?
Yeah, so all of this work is happening in concert with the container runtimes. Like it's not because like all of the container runtimes, once the changes get made to the CRI, they have to go and implement them. So it's being made in consult with them. I would say like on the cgroups v2 side of things, cgroups v2 is still an alpha. And so like I think until that graduates to beta, we don't necessarily have like the big same stability guarantees that we might need there. And I think the other thing too is like until we start telling people like, oh, you should migrate onto cgroups v2, I don't think that that's ever in the short term going to be a thing, like getting rid of cgroups v1 support in favor of cgroups v2 support. It would be nice, but like that's a very down the road thing because a lot of people are running with kernels that don't support cgroups v2 and they are supported kernels in production. So until we kind of like until that ship has sailed, where we're just like, oh yeah, cgroups v1 thing of the past. I don't think that's going to happen in the short term. So right now, anything in Node that's touching the CRI has to support both cgroups v1 and cgroups v2. So I think that it will be fine. If we like, if we get to the point where it's like, okay, we're moving to cgroups v2 and this is a blocker, I'm sure that we will find some sort of solution for that. Definitely, I looked at the PR that that Peter was working on. Peter Hunt is currently the one who owns this KEP, and it had a bunch of network stats stuff in there. So it's certainly part of the specification.
Yeah, I just wanted to have mentioned it because in the cgroups v2 KEP, I forget who the person from Red Hat was who was working on that, said we'll figure it out in this other KEP, which was the C-advisor removal KEP. And in the C-advisor removal KEP, we're now saying we'll figure it out when the cgroups v2 stuff happens. So it's kind of, I just wanted to have mentioned it that this will
it's
be
hopefully
a
not
bit of a
too
mess.
circular, but that makes sense. And yeah, I would just suggest to maybe comment this on like the PRs in flight as opposed
I've commented it on both PRs.
Okay, great. Well, there you go. Do you have them so we can add them to the meeting minutes?
I would need to find them again.
Okay, I'll dig them up.
Okay, yeah, I need to run.
Okay, we are at time. So thanks so much, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And today is Code Freeze. So if you have anything you need approved, let us know. Cheers.
See ya. Bye.